Debbie Reynolds' performance in Debbie Gets Jim Fired is wonderful. It seems like it's been a few episodes since Debbie really got to perform, and there are some episodes where she really gets to put on a show. The episodes where Debbie's more of a joint character, where the narrative's carried by her and somebody else, she doesn't really get to put on a show. But when the problems are caused by Debbie, as in Debbie Thompson, she really gets to perform. And this is what we get with this episode. This is the 23rd episode of the first and only season of the Debbie Reynolds Show. And Debbie goes to speak with Jim's boss to try and get him a raise. And she ends up seemingly getting him fired. And she spends the entire episode panicking, worrying how she'll tell Jim or if Jim will find out before she gets a chance to tell him. Charlotte and Bob are there to help her a little bit, but the narrative is definitely fully carried by Debbie, by the character, by her own emotional responses to the situation. And there are a couple of scenes that I loved in particular. I loved the bedroom scene, partly because I thought she looked beautiful. Her hair was absolutely gorgeous. I know that might be a ridiculous reason to love a scene, but Debbie Reynolds is beautiful. And the scene, well, this is a spoiler. This is a spoiler for what happens at the end, but the scene where she goes to visit his boss again. I won't say exactly what happens, but she's performing as somebody other than Debbie Thompson. I'll say that. And she gave a great performance. And I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and I like the fact that we, the viewer, kind of know things that Debbie doesn't. That's often the case. I feel often we can see things that she can't, and that helps to play out the narrative because we know where the narrative's going or where it potentially could go. And Debbie's unsure of that, and seeing her getting to a tizzy and getting more and more frustrated is just hilarious when you know what is actually happening. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. It definitely goes to show that a narrative can be carried by Debbie alone. As I said, Bob and Charlotte do have a role to play in it, and Jim is in it. Well, Jim's in it not as much as one would think, considering it's about him getting fired. But the narrative is definitely carried by Debbie as a character. And obviously, the entertainment is carried by Debbie Reynolds, who gives such a beautiful performance. And I absolutely love her, and she's gorgeous. Not too many episodes left, unfortunately, but I will savor them. I'm still watching one a week. I think I have 4 left to watch, if I'm not mistaken. And if they're anything like Debbie Gets Jim Fired, I think I'm going to be in for a treat.